This is your warning, in case it was not obvious. This video is about Talesgames, so if you're going to get triggered by my thoughts about Talesgames, please do not watch this video. I am not an important figure in this community. My word is not important to you. This is only if you want to know my take on the series. So, if that is not you, please do not watch the video. You have been warned. I feel like the heat around my original post has died down, so I feel like I need to clarify some ideas from my original tweet. If you don't know, a while back I tweeted how I don't care if Talesgames is canon, and I don't mean that in a I will never believe that it was canon, because I will believe what I want to believe kind of way. I meant it in a if Tales is canon, cool, whatever. It doesn't affect me or my opinions on the series, and in fact, it means there's more great content for me to consume, and more evidence to put on the table. I've heard a lot about them, and if given the chance, would like to actually read them sometime. But this post and video were never about hating Tales of the Pizzaplex, and a lot of people took it that way. But if I don't dislike Tales, then what's the point of the tweet and this video? That, my friends, deals with what I said and stand by from the original post. Tales being in canon will harm the theorizing community, and as much as I want to say it won't hurt the rest of the community, the more I thought about it, I realized that's not true. And again, I have to preface, this has nothing to do with the content itself, but rather the principle. In the heat of the arguments, someone mentioned how Five Nights at Freddy's isn't just about the games anymore. It's a medium for all forms of media. But you're wrong. Not in mine or many other fans' eyes, but from a casual perspective, you're wrong. If you ask some random on the street what Five Nights at Freddy's was, even if they knew what the series was, they would tell you it's a horror game. Ask someone who has listened to only the music, or drew the characters for fun when it first came out. Oh, it's an indie horror game. Any way you look at it, from a non-fan's perspective, this series is, and will likely ever be, a series of games. The community also happens to ignore the largest portion of the fanbase. Children, especially with games like Security Breach and the still flowing merchandise line. This series is still catering in large to a much younger audience, and you want to know something that I and many others experienced growing up? A distaste for reading books. Say what you will, just because you might have been a nerd growing up, doesn't mean the media-consuming younger generation are going to go out of their way to pick up the books, when they can just watch a YouTuber play the games about those said events. By introducing a media important to solving the lore of this franchise, when you have a young fanbase, how many will grow up abandoning the series? After all, the appeal of being a kid watching all of MatPat's videos was that you, the kid watching at any point, could pick up one of the games and analyze the series for yourself. Watch the minigames, get the endings. With books, you have to spend hours upon hours of reading, mixed with looking for clues, rather than actually enjoying the content you're reading. Which sounds more appealing? Hell, that's one takeaway from those posts attacking MatPat's latest theories that I slightly agree on, because even though I think the argument against a theorist video, which was clearly a sequel to his last video discussing said point, was a bit much. His fanbase, which also likely still includes a younger fanbase, aren't going to read the books to prove him wrong, just as half of the community will just see the post about MatPat being wrong, and instead of reading the books, will just go with whoever has the strongest pull on the community. Getting back on topic, many responded by saying, well, there's plenty still to theorize about even if Tales is canon. And I agree, there is. But here's the issue. The Mimic is being set up to be the new big bad of at least this set of games, if not the 3 coming after. This isn't like the silly arguments of, what is the blob, or who was killed first. This is the guy who will be responsible for where the series goes next. And he was introduced, not in the games, but in the books first. And say what you will about Help Wanted, go back to when the game was released, and yet even the closest theories to a copycat AI, which was proposed by MatPat, still included the belief that William was still alive pulling the strings. If you went back and told everybody in the community that the next villain was an AI not associated with anyone from the past, made by a man who has never appeared or been mentioned, mimicking a kid who also has not been seen in a single game, not a single person would have believed you. That's the issue. From a casual's perspective, playing through Ruin without reading a single book, you wouldn't connect the dots that these two characters are connected. You'd even arguably think that it was probably a retcon, which no, I don't think that it was or could be, but this isn't about my perspective. I think overall, if this as a pattern continues with important characters' lore being only found throughout reading a book before they are introduced in the games, will only lead to confusion in the community and will end with characters being spoiled and discussed weeks, if not months, before they ever appear in the games. Well, I think this is good because it's a complete narrative. That's cool, but we already have a series that was a complete narrative, The Silver Eyes, and here's the thing about building complete narratives on top of an unfinished foundation. At some point, the cracks begin to show up until what you have left is a mess of continuity errors that make the series not line up with its original source material. If this was the direction Scott wanted with the series, he had a perfect set of books that could have done it for him, that being Fazbear Frights, and many like to argue that Frights is canon, but Frights seemingly adds new parts to the story that were never in the original source material as well, and make you have to ask whether the direction of the series is still the same or if he's using them to rewrite those original stories. Frights also does us no help in proving which Afton's son is Michael, or who caused the bite of 87, and a number of other issues. This series and the state it's currently in on the outside seems fine, when in truth, we don't know whether we can use other developers' ideas as canon, as Illuminix supposedly got to write out their own lore according to anonymous leakers, while Scholastic and Steelwool were given outlines of what Scott wanted. We don't know whether or not the first 6 games can be used as canon or not anymore. Hell, we can't even decide what investigation methods are allowed and which aren't. So take this video, hopefully not as a spark of this argument coming back, because that's not the point, but rather my last take on the situation and an ask for Scott. Please, for the sake of theorists and everyone in the community, clarify what can and cannot be used when discussing the main Five Nights at Freddy's continuity. For the time being, I have a few videos that I already have in the background cooking that I'm going to finish and end up posting here throughout the next coming weeks, so that way you guys can actually see them, because for the next few weeks, I'm going to end up taking a sort of FNAF detox where I basically don't consume any FNAF content for a while, because it is honestly affecting my real life, and I need some time to not be thinking about this series and constantly looking for more pieces of evidence and everything else of the sort. It's a very unhealthy relationship, so for the time being, I'm going to just be uploading those videos and be spending a few weeks just Five Nights at Freddy's completely free. If you guys have any suggestions for theories or videos that you want me to watch when I come back from this sort of situation, make sure to send it either in the comments of this video or send it to my Discord server. I need a break, and I will see you sometime later this week with another video. Matane.